Good morning, everyone. Hopefully, you're having an amazing day today. So, it's Friday. Happy Friday. And we are jumping into this trade that we're making here um, on APLD. So, we just wrapped up our daily live trading sessions and we were watching APLD sell off this morning. They were down at one point about negative 4%. And we ended up buying them this morning here. Nothing hits like the first cup of coffee. We ended up buying them this morning. Couple reasons why. Data center markets are driving the AI boom. And if you are seeing space tech and quantum and data centers and the energy boom and even demand for nuclear, and you're seeing all of these new AI models that are coming out. Speaking of which, if you missed it, I'll leave the link in the description below. You can watch the demo, but we just demonstrated yesterday how to use AI to do your analysis here using Prophecy AI. And so Prophecy AI helped us make this trade this morning on Applied Digital. We got the nearest support levels. We're looking green over the next 4 hours and seeing them plus 1.8%, but they were down about negative 4%. And so this morning we ended up trading them and we bought into APLX on this dip buy. So it was right here at 89.35. We bought into APLD this morning. You can see that trade here. And we're up about $720 in this trade that we just entered less than an hour ago. If you'd ever like to tune on into our trading sessions, again, it's the second link below. But one of the things we were talking about was how do we get the conviction or the perfect entry on something like this in APLD when there's so much volatility in the market. It's quite easy to be wrong. 720, now we're at 750 profit this morning. And it's very simple. So whenever we're looking for trades in the market, if you don't have clarity, then you don't have a trade. It's like if there's doubt, then there's no doubt. There's a really great quote by I think it's Mark Andreessen, when talking about consulting with Y Combinator, which is a private equity firm that works with startups. And he was talking about, it was either him or Eric Schmidt, I can't quite remember, but they're talking about building a team. And they say the notion is if there's doubt, then there's no doubt. In other words, if you have doubt in your team, then there's no doubt. It means that you shouldn't be on that team, or you need to address it immediately. But the same thing is true with the trade. If you're in a trade and you're up or you're down and there is serious doubt, you probably shouldn't be in that trade. If there's doubt, there's no doubt, you shouldn't be in it. And so this morning when we were watching, it's kind of hard. I don't know why I can't really zoom in and see my position. If I need to zoom out, maybe. Here we go. There we go, maybe. I don't know why it's not. Maybe it's my stop market sell. Let me move my stop market sell up so that you guys can see the profit clearer. I'm going to move it up here. Let me cancel it. So we're up about $694 right now on this trade we just entered this morning. Now this is the interesting part. APLD started off the day about negative 4%. Okay, so negative 4% over on APLX, which is the 2x, is just about negative 8% negative. So in other words, you have these instruments where, imagine you have Apple stock. You have Apple and then you have Apple 2x. So Apple stock might be trading at negative 1% for the day, whereas Apple 2x is going to trade at negative 2%. So that means that the fluctuations and how much they're going to go up and down will be 2 times more volatile over on APLX. So APLX is the 2x of APLD. So this morning, when we saw APLD down about 4%, we're saying, okay, that's a pretty good dip. It's possible that they end the day today up about 2 to 3% positive. And then in that case, we would want to capitalize on that gain. And so as you can see, if that was a swing from negative 4% to up 2% to 3%, that's actually about a 6% swing. And if it's a 6% swing over on APLD, then that means that it is a 12% gain or swing over on APLX. And so that's why we entered on APLX here. And we ended up catching, in a short period of time, small investment, once again, just about $5,000. Okay, I think it was about $5,300, something like that. Very small position. We're not, trading huge positions here, especially because we prioritize the long term. You guys know that. But if you've been following, you're quite aware of that. But in the short term, I just want to share with you guys how we made the trade. Simply put, we caught this 10% swing over on APLX. So we're up over $500. I do see some volatility now, and I see some corrections. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my stop loss once again. Okay. Now look, I'm not here to say that trading is always easy, right? You have the ability to fail, and you have the rejections that you'll face. So it's really important where you trade, you are open to potentially losing the trade. And so you want to have stop losses in your short-term trades. Brian says, good evening. Good evening. Is it evening over where you are? That's awesome, man. APLD is up. Are there days where you spend time analyzing the charts like today and don't do any trades? Oh yes, definitely. Today's a day we didn't really have any. We traded Oracle yesterday. That was a good trade. We sold them before they dipped this morning. They dipped this morning on news that they aren't owning as much of TikTok as people thought. They're actually only owning about 15%, and China still owns about, or not China, ByteDance still owns about 50% of the company. And so still, Oracle dipped on that news, which is interesting because we weren't really trading them just because of the TikTok news. We're also liking Oracle because of the AI demand that there's been for their services, and that they're a top behemoth in the AI infrastructure play. And so today, I got up this morning. It was pretty cold outside, pretty dark as it is because it's 6:30 a.m. when we start our live sessions in the morning. And once we got our setup here, which we do, we got our setup. Take a look. You guys can see a totally different view, which is great. Got a new setup for the trading and investing, which is just so much more comfortable. Nevertheless, took some time to get it going. But once we got it going and we could jump in, we closed out our short-term position in CTM. And then we jumped in to APLX. Okay, so now that we got APLX here, I'm going to set a stop, and we're going to talk about why we're trading it. They're leading the data center market this morning, which is great. You see this previous resistance and previous consolidation right here. I'm just going to use Prophecy app real quick. So they were anticipating a slight pullback down to 35.40. Okay, we did see that pullback. And then Prophecy app is looking bullish over the next 4 hours and the next day. And then potentially dipping down into next trading day next week here, APLD. So don't want to lose the gains, but also, as you can tell, there are some upsides for APLD right now, and they are running up. IREN was the other one we were considering trading this morning, which we ended up staying away from. Brian, that's amazing. I've never been to Switzerland, but it's on my list. I really want to go to Switzerland. It's one of my top picks, man. My mom was a flight attendant, and she used to always take me back stuff when she'd fly places for American for like 20 years. And she used to tell me that Switzerland was her favorite place to fly. She still tells me that. She's alive. She says, go to Switzerland. But then she also says, go to India. She says, go to India to see the world difference. Um, but yeah, no, Switzerland is interesting, man. I really wanted to go there. I also want to go to Sweden as well. Um, and I almost went to Geneva as well for a quantum conference this last year, but instead we went to Buenos Aires in Argentina for a few months. So that's what was going on there. But we got to go to some good space conferences last year. We got to, oh, by the way, Redwire absolutely running up today. Redwire today was up about 10% at market open this morning. They're up 12% now. Look at that. So we were anticipating from $4 a share, they were going to jump up into that $10 to $15 range. Look at that. They have continued to roar as they get up into now $13 a share and continuing to rocket up over the last few weeks. They've jumped into the last month and a half about 160%. So congratulations to everyone there in trading Redwire. We're going through some things in Redwire as well inside of Stockmates here. Heard some really good news from some different investors. Going to have to probably remove this post. Because we don't have a Discord. And I don't want a Discord. We don't want a Discord. I'll tell you why. We're going to build an even better chat system. We're building it into Prophecy AI. But we're not going to do a Discord because Discord is copy trading and people end up broke. People end up broke in Discords so often. So we're going to stay away from that for a little bit because of the copy trading-esque. It's so much better to learn the skills than it is to copy trade. So I could help people make short-term gains potentially, but nothing that they would be able to keep because they wouldn't be built in integrity or built on steady progress. It would be more built on just quick hits, which is doing well. So no, I'm not ignoring Redwire. I hold Redwire long term. They're one of our top picks. We've been talking about them for quite some time. We love Redwire. But anyway, when it comes to APLD for this trade today over on APLX, we are in this trade. We're up about $800 profit today. Doing so when the market dipped this morning, it was a perfect buying opportunity. And you might say, Will, okay, that's great. Some of you guys are saying, oh, just $800. That's totally fine too. Some of you guys might also be like, $800. Well, Will must be investing with 100,000 or 500,000 or I don't know. But no, this is just it's a $5,000 investment. Once again, very that's how much I invested in APLX today. 60 shares. I mean, you can see right here, 60 shares, 60.17 shares. So yes, that is an 8 to 10% swing. And no, it's not on some hyper leveraged brokerage platform. I'm here on Robinhood and I'm trading, just how I trade every day in the Stockmate live sessions. There was a lot of investors that were there this morning that also caught the session and were able to trade APLX alongside me as well. Not really copy trading, but we went through a couple stocks. Took us about 10-15 minutes to really see where the opportunities were this morning. But once we found it and then verified it with Prophecy AI as well, it just lined up. So for APLD, they did sign some recent data center deals. They are in the same boat as Iran, as Wolfstock, as in NBIS, and that they are a top player in this space. They're starting to build the market share, and they're also seeing a lot more growth in the revenue that they have been gaining over the last few. So if you take a look at where they're currently sitting in their focus, they have the build outs of the network architecture with energy sources that are focused on strategically placing near renewable energy. They also have a really interesting approach that is outside of what most data center companies have focused on, which is simply building their own technology for cooling. So when it comes to the different reasons why you would look at a data center stock, you can invest in companies, based on the value. You could base it on their partnerships. You could base it on, the technical analysis. You might look at the financials. You might look at the news. But ultimately, when you're looking at a company like APLD, so many of those things line up perfectly. And we saw them build some data centers for some top companies. Now, the only thing that's actually caught me off guard, and I don't know if you guys saw the mention of it at the World Economic Forum, which was that solar and wind energy maybe, but primarily solar energy just actually isn't efficient enough to run enough data power for the data center companies that there is an amount of joules that are needed. There's an amount of momentum that is needed, or energy power. It's not just the energy itself, but it's the velocity, right? That it has the power, and so actually, what we heard at this World Economic Forum was that there is not going to be a very reliable route to power data centers using solar power. So just keep that in mind. I thought that was really interesting, unless maybe they have a storage system, like an energy storage system, where they can over time store the power, and then they can run more high density energy. Is that even the right word? I believe it's like more high frequency with greater joules, meaning the ability to hold in demand the surges that will occur as a result of running a data center, hold in supply, you could say. And the architects of acceleration is what they deem themselves. They're focused with supermicro computer. One of the things I thought was really interesting about the approach recently was how NVIDIA was investing in them, because NVIDIA is one of the suppliers for their GPUs. And so as we saw, the NVIDIA, Dell Technologies, Intel, Hewlett Packard Enterprises, speaking of which, we just recently signed something yesterday for a new team member to join us here at Prophecy AI, which is super exciting. He's from Hewlett Packard Enterprise. That's really cool, right? So excited to have Liam on the team. And if you ever have any communication with me about investing, he's now working with a lot of our clients as well, which is super exciting, and I'm looking forward to that. But some of the testimonials, once again, you got NVIDIA working with APLD, the CoreWeave data centers, you got $15 billion in pipeline. And then when you look at the Applied Digital financials, they really just increase their revenue so much. Did you guys see they jumped in revenue by over $100 million? They're up to $126 million reported in the last quarter. Now, what some people might not realize is that this was something we saw coming, but they haven't hit these revenue numbers before. And so once they hit these numbers, the stock saw a lot of growth as a result. Investors, obviously, it's common. You're buying stocks because you're looking at the future. And it's quite common that stocks trade at premiums. Some trade at premiums for years. You look at Coca-Cola. I remember this interview from Warren Buffett, and they're like, "Would you still trade Coca-Cola even though the PE ratio is at 40?" It's like he normally buys at a PE ratio of 20, and he said, "Well, did you know that in the 2 seconds that I just talked, there was 600 Coca-Cola bottles that were opened?" And he's like, I'm not really worried about it. He's like, there's 600, and he started giving the facts. He's like, 600 bottles opened in the last 2 minutes. And did you know that there was uh, uh, shipped to all like 200 or like a huge portion of all the countries, 120 countries, something like that. And he said, and did you know that over the last day they produced this much and they're producing this much? And he said, and so he's talking about why, and he's a numbers guy, right? I wouldn't invest in Coca-Cola just because it's not healthy. I wouldn't want to invest in it because of the integrity side, and obviously, um, making money is one thing. Is it your definition of success? Some people would say that it's just that, but um, it also depends. Warren Buffett doesn't see that way. He's been drinking Coke every day, and he's what 90 something years old. So he's like, it's fine. My health's fine, right? So he's got a different perspective on it, which I totally get. But but the point is that in the knowledge of the stock, premiums didn't bother Warren Buffett. Premium wasn't an issue. Um, and so what you have going here is you have a growth of 126 million. We knew this was going to happen, even if they're trading at a premium, which they were before this earnings. We were fine with it because they had all of the pipeline of the uh, tens of billions of dollars, almost over $10 billion in pipeline. And so that's why we didn't really worry about the premium. Then the last quarter came out, they ended up matching and exceeding those targets, and we saw them jump total assets to 5 billion. And so now they're up and they're continuing to run, and we're trading them this morning. And we have long-term positions on APLD, but we also just traded APLX in the short term. And in our live session today, we're up about $873 profit so far today in a matter of an hour and a half here. So I see in the comments, Randall says, I screwed myself on APLX, raising my stop loss too soon. Got it. Okay. Well, listen, Randall. First of all, you didn't screw yourself. Okay. You didn't screw yourself because don't use that. Don't use that language. First of all, you're gonna notice that your language and the words that you use will either trigger emotional reaction, or it will smooth and keep you calm and allow you to be relaxed. So Randall, take a minute here, man. So as you're investing in the stock, okay, have you ever moved your stop loss up too soon, or have you ever sold a stock too soon? Have you ever sold a stock too soon? You're probably like, yeah, man, I've sold a stock. You're probably smiling to yourself. You're like, yeah, I've sold a stock too soon. Okay. Here's the thing. Selling a stock too soon happens to everybody. It happens to every single investor. In fact, it will happen quite often because you're never going to get a perfect exit. Now, we did set some stops, and we shared them in the live session this morning. So you had some ability. I think it was right around 94. We set a stop at 90, and it continued up, and we're still up now, and we'll have to reset a stop as it's at 103 now, and we entered at 89 this morning. And so the key is if you get upset every single time that you sell a stock too early, that's like getting upset every time that you have to feed your cat. It's like, imagine getting upset every single time that you have to feed your cat. Like, there's certain things in this life that, like, if you got upset and you knew that you had to do it every single day, or that you were choosing to do it, you don't even have to have a cat, but you're choosing to do it every single day, and you're getting upset at yourself every single day, that's a problem. That means you set up a system in your life that goes against what feels right to you, or it feels fine, but you've set up this thought process that every time it happens, you get upset. And it will make you feel insane. That's why some traders and investors are like, yeah, stock market's not for me, because they go in expecting that they're never going to lose, when the reality is I lose more than I win. I actually expect to lose more than I win. Isn't that crazy? Because we go for, like, for example, a trade like this morning, we're going for a risk that is much less than that of our margin for profit so that we can afford to lose more. Calculated risks, we can afford to lose more than we win. In the amount of times we lose more, but in the amount of what we win, when we win more. And so it's really important to realize this, is that if there's anything that is a repetitive process of triggering negative emotion in your investing, in your life, in your business, in your trading, in how you're working at your company or manage your company, you have to either reassess the system, or you have to realize that you have to shift a belief, right? You have to shift a belief. And so realize that almost always you'll choose that they're either it's a mentor or it's an experience that you can link it to, and you say, oh yeah, that makes sense. I'm not going to get upset every single time. Like when I say, do you get upset at your cat every single time you have to feed your cat? And you're probably like, no, like I actually like feeding my cat. Like when I feed my cat, he's so happy. Like he's like, yeah, let's go. And I get excited feeding him. Then in that instance, you're like, yeah, because that's my belief around it. But if you hated feeding your cat, you had to do it every single day, and you still chose to, that's just voluntary suffering that's not required. And in today's world, people think that you have to, suffer because that's what it's going to take to get you there. And I can tell you that there should be a pull to the investing, that even when you lose, you like to lose. Like even when it's down, the best investors I know, when the stock goes down, they like the stock going down because they're saying, I'm going to get more, or this is great. Look what I just learned here. And I just upskilled and I got better so that next time in the market, when this shift happens, I'm going to capitalize on it. And so it's really important to realize that all of your beliefs and how you assess positively or negative, you have to have expectations that are correct for you to succeed. And one of the things is that you'll lose more than you win. So one thing we just talked about, and you guys can have a look in the demo below when we were talking about Prophecy AI. If you're learning how to use AI tools, or you aren't learning, you need to know how to learn to use AI tools to analyze stocks, so you can get left behind, because these stocks are moving fast and you got to be able to keep up with everything that's happening, and AIs will do it all for you. It's the first link below. But in using those tools, we're talking about it, how to use the tool, and we brought up a quote from Bill Ackerman, one of the top investors in the world. And the quote was, in order to be successful, you have to make sure that being rejected doesn't bother you at all. So in order to be successful, you have to make sure that being rejected doesn't bother you at all. The most successful person that I've ever worked for, from a financial perspective and a full life perspective, one of the things that he used to say when I was working at this company, and they were doing between $5 and $10 million per year. Pretty small company. They're in the real estate business. And one of the things, because his family worked with him, one of the things he used to say all the time was, come to me with a failure or you've failed. He said, if you're not failing, then you're not going to succeed. And he would encourage failure. And so what I'm saying is, in these trades, when you set your stop loss too early, man, realize you won. Like, not only did you actually gain because you were locking in profits, but you also won because you set stop loss, you had discipline, and you should get dopamine from the actual discipline, not from the end result. And that's something that will also differentiate you from normal investors as compared to successful investors, is you're willing to you get dopamine in different ways than most people. If you're successful, you get dopamine in failure because you get the satisfaction of knowing what doesn't work, right? It's like Thomas Edison saying, oh, how did you figure out the light bulb? And Thomas Edison says he went, oh, I just figured out, 9,999 times how the light bulb doesn't work. Right? It was just another check. And so that's what I would say for you in your trades today, man. Hopefully that's helpful for you. Yeah, right? You did well overall. You still made from 92 to 99 in a trade. Um, the price point went from $92 to 99. That's excellent. Hey man, that's almost a 7 to 10% trade in a matter of an hour or two. If you do that every single day, or not even every single day, if you do that a couple times a year, or even twice a year, you're going to outperform most hedge funds, right? So, you got to look at it from a perspective of growth and progress, man. All right, that's how you're going to survive as a stockmate. You just joined stockmate yesterday, didn't you? So that's how you're going to survive right there, man. Realize progress is success. Okay, so locking in APLD, financials look good. We talked about it. The negative part that we didn't like about some of their recent moves was that they were supplied energy to their data centers via solar. And after doing further research, we found that that's not a fully viable option. We just uncovered some new information around solar power that companies are finding it's not sufficient to power data centers unless with very specialized energy storage systems. So that was the only chink in the armor of the data center market that we did see get released related to that the World Economic Forum that came out this last week. However, data centers continue to rally. Okay, CoreWeave doing well. You see this APLX trade is up to $940 profit this morning on a $5,000 investment. So we'll be watching here. I'm going to have a stop loss set just above this $100 price point. But I'm looking, again, I mean, at this point, we talk about this quite often. Once you're up, you don't have to sell. You can even add to your position when you're up, but make sure the downside's protected. All right, so we might even add to this position that's already up here in the last hour and a half of about 17%. We might add to this position. Now, I realize that it sounds crazy that we're up 17% or what have you, right? But we're up over 40% this year on the portfolio starting this year. Why? Because if you think about the math, right, of data centers, and data centers are growing over 150% per year, that's over 10% per month. Never in the history of the world have we all had this many eyes on this many stocks that are growing as fast as they're growing right now. It's never happened. So I realize that it sounds crazy to you guys. Some of you guys are in it. You've been here since the last year and you're like, let's go. This thing is rocking and we've been going since 2024, end of 2024, and the AI boom that's caught on. But for those of you guys that are just looking at it right now and you're saying, gosh, I mean, 70%, in a day. Once again, realize 200% per year, you're looking at over 10% per day returns in the data center markets, in the AI markets, and factor in the use of instrument of tools that exist in the 2x. So now that 200% can potentially be a 400% return. They're telling you, 10 to 12% is standard, but even the S&P did 17% last year. Data center and AI stocks have jumped over 200% year over year. So the reality is that you have to realize the markets are in they're in the virtual profit market category, the easy profit market category. Really, that's what I'm saying. And so some of the markets that we're looking at today and we'll be following into this next week. All right, we have the technology markets. So this is inside of Prophecy app. If you guys haven't gone and taken a look at that full class we did yesterday on this, it's going to be the first link in the description. Would love for you to get your hands on Prophecy AI. It's super exciting what we're building here. You got Grok, you got Gemini, you got ChatGPT, and all in one place. but also you got to make sure those models get the best data possible. So here's some of the markets we're watching right now. Technology markets. Going to be having a look into this next week as we close out this week, but into this weekend and looking into next week. We're going to be looking at the AI markets, software, quantum, semiconductors. We're going to be looking at there's actually an interesting video game market with Take Two and the GTA 6, right? Very interesting. They're really building like a virtual living environment there, which is pretty impactful. It's going to be one to watch, but we won't really be following the video games as much. We're going to actually be I haven't talked about video game stocks at all, but I do have some interesting takes on that because growing up, my brother used to play a ton of video games. So did I. Actually, we played video games growing up all the time, and I loved playing some of these games. But anyway, cellular, defense, devices, cybersecurity, right? Video, cloud, AI data centers, hyperscalers, some of the edge computing, along with the data and analytics, go into some of the big data, business intelligence, observability, right? There's also some micro markets to watch in the AI market. So you guys might have seen LLMs, agents, AI infrastructure. So we're going to be looking at the AI, the technology. In the aerospace markets, we're going to be looking at space tech, and we're going to be looking at the drone markets. When it comes to energy and resources, you could be looking as well at minerals. We will be following oil and gas with the Venezuelan stuff that's going on, and the nuclear markets and materials. When it comes to energy storage, there's also some interest there we'll be watching, and utilities, just to balance out the portfolio. So many different markets that we're in. The consumer market, we're following a little bit, but primarily we're in the enterprise of AI markets and aerospace and defense, and seeing the some of the flow of contracts from the big beautiful bill and some other things. So we'll be watching there. And if any opportunities do present themselves here on Prophecy, I would love for you guys to give me feedback as well. If you have stocks you're watching, can you go ahead, just comment them in the live chat as well? Can you comment them in the live chat? I see a CoreWeave there from Elvis, CRWV. Carbon, oh, that's the wrong one. CRWV. Is that the right? There we go. Yeah, can you guys comment some ticker symbols, please, in the chat? Yeah, Randall, I have done a deep dive on RZLV, and Randall, you're getting a wake-up call today, man. So RZLV, there's a lot of hype around RZLV. If I were to search up RZLV, a lot of hype, $1 billion market cap. All right, a lot of hype. It's an under-the-radar stock. It's valuation. Interesting. They got AI deals that are coming in. There's a lot of hype around this stock, RZLV, right? I'm curious. I know we're going to CoreWeave, but let me search up RZLV here on Prophecy app. Let's see what it has to say. You got AI deals here. ARR goals are in the speculation phase. So what's going on with RZLV? Well, everybody's hyping it up, and I've heard a lot about this stock. But let's let the AIs tell us, and let's see what's going on here. Let's see what OpenAI has to say. Some bullish momentum in the next month, maybe. All right, some shifts, a little bit of green shifts. Okay. So not anything hyper bullish, a little bit of a potential long-term trend. In the near to medium term, it's indicating negative momentum. Yeah, negative momentum in the near term. And why is that? A lot of the interesting facts of this company come down to the AI is building, new infrastructure. We're getting new data, new AI use cases, and we're growing so fast. And check this company out. But the reality is they have more liabilities than assets. So when a company has more liabilities than assets, it means at any time they could go bankrupt. All right. And so I'm not entirely sure, but just in late 2025, they actually, this is what I was saying, I think they were going to go bankrupt. And then in late 2025, they filed financial distress and that they were potentially going to go bankrupt. And so what happened was you see a lot of press releases that were very bullish, possibly in the event or in the reasoning, like the why would they put out more articles? There's way more hype articles, possibly because of the cause of a potential bankruptcy that the stock wanted to grow and see more manipulation. That's my thought, is I believe it's being heavily manipulated because they're in the Resolve AI. Everybody's talking about the AI, but they have more liabilities than assets, which means that they are at very high risk of bankruptcy. They could at any time be at risk of completely going bankrupt. And I shorted the company and made a killing back in October and December of this year. So that's why RZLV, and according to Prophecy, you got some negative projections here in the near term, is one I wouldn't touch. I know everybody's hyping it up. It's almost impossible to let me see here. Everybody's talking about it, right? RZLV. Look at it. It's going from $3.60 to $100 a share, someone says. Look at that. This gentleman here. Okay. Comeback, major comeback. All right. Get in before it explodes. Oh, this one's good. Get in before it explodes. That's pretty good. And I'm not here to judge any of these individuals personally, but I am here to say have some dignity and integrity. That if you're going to say this is a 10x get in now before it's too late type of things, like look at all this. Look at all this hype. This is paid hype. Companies pay for hype. And so then people make videos just because they're seeing the paid hype. They don't know it's paid hype. And so they decide to, copy the videos because they see it doing well when in fact it could have been fabricated engagement. Finally gives confirmation, someone says. Finally gives confirmation. Don't sell it. Oh my gosh. These people are beautiful people and they've just been led astray. Like, if a company has negative liabilities, like I understand negative net income, that's fine. There are companies that have negative net income. Quantum companies, for example, they have negative net income. Even some companies like AI companies, there's a lot of normal companies that have negative net income. That's fine. But when you look at the balance sheet and they're literally in the hole and their liabilities are greater than their assets, you don't want to play around with that, right? It's just another thing that goes against you in the probability that this stock would go up. Does that make sense? Are you guys tracking what I'm saying here? Why we're sharing this about RZLV? Okay. Someone brought it up. Okay. All right. So Just Me says, hi, what's going on, man? How are you doing? Or he or she, how are you? All right. No Elvis says, what's going on, Will? Is there negative news of securities fraud related to Big Bear AI? Let's see what happened with Big Bear AI today. Big Bear AI drops because of a lawsuit investigation. No, it's very normal. Very normal. I mean, I'll show you. TSLA lawsuit. January, literally like this last week. Look at this lawsuit against Tesla. All right. Lawsuit. All right. You pick any stock that's growing super fast and I can find you a lawsuit. Look at this. Lawsuit against Nvidia 1 day ago, right? So the reality is there's always lawsuits. It happens all the time. Should you pay attention to them? I actually don't pay attention to them until they've gone through, until they've actually materialized into something, because they will cause short-term volatility. There was a huge wave of lawsuits on Big Bear AI that were later dismissed and never turned into anything when they dropped after their last earnings. And everybody was saying, not APLD, Big Bear AI is fraudulent, and they didn't report their earnings right, and they dipped massively. And they said, "Are you investing in Big Bear AI, and did you lose money? Call us now today, and we'll help you recover your money." Basically, and nobody really called. Maybe some people called, but they didn't have a basis for argument. It was just a whole wave of articles that were lawsuits. And so it wasn't actually anything that turned into negative stuff for the company. I've been sued before. Like there was a time when I started a fish business. Did you know? I started a fish business. I was working at a fish company. I don't know how this happened, but I was working at a fish company about 6 years ago, 7 years ago, 6 years ago. Delivering food to, or delivering fish, and I was starting my own fish company where I was going down to the bay, picking up fish, taking it to farmers market, selling it. I thought it was great. I thought it was a fun idea, and I bought a bunch of coolers, and I found the distributors, and I reached out to distributors, and I got really good deals on salmon and cod and tuna and ahi tuna and everything else, to go ahead and take some fish and take it up to the mountains and sell it for, I would get it for $15. I'd be able to sell it for $30, $35 a pound or something for premium salmon, right? Premium salmon in California. And so the distributor the distributor talked with another competitor, and in my first week I received a legal action against me for it was like a non-compete type of thing. I never even signed anything. I never even worked for the company's division of the stuff that I was doing. It was totally different, and I was just passionate at the time. And then I saw this, and am I passionate enough about fish? I was like, no, I'm not. So I'm not going to do this. And I was also at the time like 20 years old, and I was like, I don't really care about fish. I don't really want to start a fish business anyway. So I just basically what do you say? I conceded to the lawyer. But it was the right decision because I didn't want to smell like fish anyway. So I am very happy with my life now. So, yeah, I was all in. I went and purchased and looked everywhere on Facebook Marketplace and got a ton of coolers so I could fill them with the ice, so I could go down to San Francisco, get the fish, and then go to the farmers market. I got the website. I already talked with farmers markets. I was getting in to sell my fish, and a competing company didn't like that, and it was basically a monopoly.
Yeah,
They had a monopoly, and but no, it's not a monopoly, because like it was a monopoly in appearance, but if you would have dug deeper, you would have realized that they had no power, and I could have done whatever I wanted, and I could have offered, or I could have sold fish and been fine. But they knew how to scare a 20-year-old at least, or not really scare me. They didn't scare me, but they knew how to make me feel like, is this really worth it? And I was like, I don't really want to do this. And I worked for an institution. Then we moved to Boulder, actually, Colorado, and I worked at an institution um, doing financial consulting. And that's when I was like, yeah, I just want to keep doing financial consulting. And then 5 years later, started back up with Stockmate because I was already investing for those 5 years. We had created more freedom in our life. I was trading every day at market open and investing, and had a lot of success with certain AI stocks, including Nvidia and Tesla and Rocket Lab. And I was even living with a friend that now works at Rocket Lab, and we found it really short, very small amounts, and Palantir and some other companies that did quite well for me. Um, and then I had a moment where I was feeling like I didn't know what to do with my life. I was walking down the street and I saw all these people walking down the street, and I thought, what am I doing? What are all these people? What do they have in common? And I was looking at them. I'm like, they all probably don't know the massive opportunity that's happening in the investing world. They don't know about the data centers. They don't know about the AI. They don't know about the quantum. They don't know about the space tech. They don't know about the energy. They don't know about even the industrial or the robotics or the software or the build out of new materials. And I thought, and the world's going to change, and if they don't invest, their finances will become more and more rough. And I was just looking at everyday people, and I was like, I should share what I'm doing and share how I invest. And then, within like 2 months or something, we hit 10,000 subscribers, and we continue to grow. And we're still new to this whole YouTube stuff, and I really appreciate you all. Thanks so much for tuning in. And like a good example is today, we're trading APLD. Everybody that was in Stockmate this morning got to see this trade. And then the other thing is, as our systems have been working really well, we've also automated it all in Prophecy AI. So have a look there in the description below, because that's going to be closing soon for the first access. If you want to get your hands on this AI analysis with the top AI models in the world, you can do analysis just like me as well in automation. All you got to do is find that demo link or the checkout link below. But once again, when we traded this morning, we're going to watch APLD. We are now up over $1,100. For reference, it was we started the stream, I think we're up around 700. In this live trade, we are now up 1,140, and we are going to set the stop loss here, guys, just right around previous levels. So here's a key thing to watch. APLD is at a resistance level, very strong resistance. You can see this APLX right around $109 a share. You kind of see this level here dating back into about the last week and a half. Resistance, resistance, resistance. At this moment, you guys know we trade the market dip at market open. You can see that here on APLD when it dipped down and made the same move. It happened yesterday or 2 days ago. It dipped down to 81 and then made a similar move. And then today, when it dipped down at market open and we bought it here, it made kind of the same move. But every time when it's made this move, it's gotten rejected at this level at around $109 a share. So in the $109 a share here, Supermicro Computer says the chat. I hear you guys. Yeah, we could take a look real quick. And so now we're at a resistance around $108 a share. And so I would say next level of resistance or support to watch is going to be some of this consolidation here. You got this previous resistance that we reached yesterday at market open that may act as a support level around 102. Okay. So 102, that's a pretty sharp decline from current prices. APLD has made a run here of 7% today. But you can see the EMA here is acting as a support. So once again, if you were to take a look at the trend this morning, pretty clearly you can see it's holding a very consistent trend. Do you see this? Holding above this EMA and making higher highs. And so I think a good stop loss at this point is to lock in close. All right, so you got a previous resistance here that has been around 107. And then you also have the EMA, so that blue line, it will oftentimes pull back or even a little bit below it. So I'm going to go ahead and set a stop loss here on APLX at 107.26 is fine for those 60 shares, $6,400 credit if it hits it, which is great. You know, on about a $5,300 investment, we're locking in over $1,000. Okay, so we're gonna do, that's the process. Again, how do you set a stop? It's not just percentages. A lot of times you want to look at the levels of support. So this morning, one of the things I've been getting a lot of messages about is Supermicro. I'm going to jump into it real quick. So Supermicro selling down currently. We see them sell down here a little bit. Overall uptrend in the last few years, right? The last year they've consolidated. You see them go from, you know, a couple dollars a share to now $31 a share. And they've recently pulled down to a previous level of support here around $30 a share. You guys see this level here? Right, $30 a share support. We're anticipating a run up on Supermicro up into about $40 a share to potentially $50 or $60 a share, which would be a 100% increase from here. But on the short term, you know, things look a little more rocky. Before we get into the short term, why the 100% potential recovery on Supermicro? I have this thesis. It's called like the Elon thesis. If you invest in a company that is related to Elon, then you'll do well. It's really interesting, but it's worked for me for like 10 years and 12 years now. And it's something that I would encourage everybody to consider. And all we do is we look at the companies that Elon is building, and we look at what individual sub-market or micro-market companies are going to enable Elon to succeed, because he doesn't fail. Or when he fails big, but he ends up succeeding, right? And so a good example of that would be AMD stock when it was at $75 a share. If you guys were to go search up AMD, you would probably see something like this. You'd see AMD stock, Starlink. You can see our videos are first on Google. Okay, and we were even probably recommended here. I don't know if it's our video that's recommended. It is our video that's recommended even by Gemini, because we started covering this back in 2024, which was the fact that AMD was providing the microchips for Starlink. Now, I personally use Starlink. It's running this live stream right now. If you have seen any new internets come out, you'll know Starlink is really the best. And they have a subscription I knew was going to do well because I was using it and the product is great. But also because AMD was making it happen, and they were at $75 a share and growing. And the potential with Starlink was just too great to ignore. And there was rising demand for that Starlink. And so AMD made a ton on that position with their Versal chips. And then on top of that, AMD was doing data centers. So Supermicro, similar situation. If you look at Supermicro, you can look at their financials. They're at $19 billion market cap. They're doing around $5 billion a quarter. Annually, they've been growing at about 46% year over year. That's a really great growth rate. And they're still partnered. There's been news, it was fake news, that they weren't partnered with NVIDIA. It's fake news. It's fake news, right? Fakers. Liars. No, I'm just kidding. But actually, I did some coverage of an article that was fake on accident. And I never look at that source of data again because of that. But anyway, I go to the source now. And if you go to the source, okay, you see their revenues increasing, balance sheet is good. They're up to 14 billion. Cash is up 200% year over year. But if you go directly to the source, right, you go to Supermicro and you look at what they do, is they build the data center solutions to house GPUs and to make it possible for GPU systems to be installed. And they also ship the systems in their racking systems that they manufacture. Okay, so this is really important because you might say, okay, well, what does that have to do with the Elon thing that you're talking about. All right, so this is what it has to do with it. Elon is building the largest AI supercomputer powered by Supermicro liquid cooled supercluster. So the largest AI supercomputer in the world that is being constructed and built is powered by Supermicro. Now, in the event that you are able to catch this and pay attention to this, it's a direct from the source article. They're building the XAI Colossus. It's the largest liquid-cooled AI cluster in the world. The most powerful liquid-cooled AI supercluster is designed to take XAI's Grok AI to another era. Supermicro accelerates the industry's transition to liquid-cooled AI data centers to deliver a new paradigm of energy efficiency for rapidly heightened demand of energy and power requirements of today's AI infrastructure. They're building it with Elon. I think it's going to do nothing but good for their company. They're going to see more growth. They're going to see more revenue and more profits as a result. That's why I like Supermicro. Now, in the short term, how does it look? They're down at a support level around $30 a share. You can see just in today in this short-term move, they're selling down. Okay. I was anticipating last that they would rocket from 29. They did rocket to $33 a share, and we did see that take place here, which was a nice move. However, even in that move here from 11% gain, they've sold down aggressively. And so Supermicro, while they look great in the long term, in the short term, they're in this trend. They've recently pulled back. Kind of see this level here, with the exception of a spike at market open, maybe to account for that was a little bit of an overbuy for a moment. They're looking more like a buy now. They're pulled down, and they're at you want to watch a previous resistance level on the short term, at least at this level here, a previous resistance around 31. They're currently at 32. Now, if they break below 31 or $32 here, which is a support level, a rising support with a target up to $34 a share, which would be a margin for profit on the short term of about 5 to 6%, maybe 7% margin. They continue this trend. They also have the ability here in their support, if they don't hold to the nearest support is 31. You saw them hold there with a little bit of a spike down. Now, if they sell down further, you're looking at $29. But nearest support is at 32, which is where they're at currently. And then another stronger support that they may hold would be around 31. So that's kind of near term on the support levels. And then targets, you're looking at bullish momentum up about 5% from where they're currently at. You do see that previous resistance get mapped out here at $33 a share right here. All right, so something to watch in that near term. About 5% margin for profit in the near term, up to $33 a share. So basically, pretty whole numbers here. $33 resistance, 5% above where it's currently at. They break out to there. Obviously, we got bigger targets for them, up to $40, $50, but that's just the near term here. About $33 bullish target. And they have a $32 support with they're struggling to hold with their momentum. And then the $31 support is their next level of support. Okay, that's how it looks in the near term. Hopefully that's helpful for you on the technical side. But yeah, on the fundamental side, really liking how they're going. Hello. Dean, Supermicro, that's how it looks. All right, last one from J7I7J8. Hi, Will. Thoughts on BITF? Yep. Okay, so BITF, it's almost comparable to APLD. It's almost comparable to IREN. It's almost comparable to WULF. But the problem with APLD is they have all these data centers. They got Latin America. They got North America. They got Canada. They're putting out all these data centers. And they're converting from Bitcoin to AI-driven data centers. But the problem is you have all these things, but they just need one thing, which is contracts from larger AI companies. You can have all these data centers. It's great. But you can even see recently that they've been selling their data centers. They exited the Latin American market with the recent sale of their last Latin American data center. So you see they no longer have that South American data center. They're now only North America. They've got plenty of data centers. They can offer their AI infrastructure. We did some research on the GPUs that they use, and their GPUs are excellent and able to support today's AI. However, they haven't signed any large contracts yet related to the use of their data centers. So with that reason, they're relying on their revenue from Bitcoin or crypto mining, which is fine. It helps them in their transition to the AI data centers, but they're so new currently that they have negative net income. All right, negative 80 million in the last quarter. So their revenue is up 155% year over year. That's really great, but they're still negative in net income. Balance sheet, they're up to 800 million. That's great. They got plenty of cash. So about, let's say, 600 million in equity, along with about 200 million a year. So let's call it 800 million to 850 or 900 million fair value. But they're currently valued at 2.2 billion Canadian, which is a premium for them. And so that's why we've seen them struggle. They are still trying to live up to their valuations as they're looking to move into the AI markets more heavily, but they just haven't seen the deals materialize. Now, once they get a deal, it will be great because the earnings that's coming up for Bitfarms, you'll probably see some deals in the pipeline, and then they're getting ready to report their earnings. And then once they report those earnings and they've had revenue from those earnings, you'll most likely see their stock grow. But again, total speculation at this point now, because I was anticipating they were going to come out with deals before the end of 2025. They did not. And so they've been consolidating. If not, they've actually been selling down, and they've struggled to break back into that $3 to $5 to $6 range. They're holding at 276, still potentially overvalued. Possible that they recover up to that 30%, but they have some issues, which is they don't have the deal. So they might even sell back down to 233. Okay. Awesome, guys. Hey, well, when it comes down to finding opportunities in the market, if you guys ever want to tune on in, daily live trading is the second link below. We were trading APLX this morning. You can see we're still in it right now. We're up about $1,300 profit. Made about $700 just on this stream in profit right in front of you. So if you ever want to tune on in and you see how we do it, you like how I trade and invest, and you'd like to build your long-term portfolio while also capitalizing on the short-term opportunities, then I would encourage you to simply have a look at the demo below in the link. Go have a look. I know some people caught it. I see Jai says, we got a breakout today. APLD is skyrocketing. I love it, man. I'm glad you're catching it. And NBIS already reached a pretty high valuation, and APLD is still feeling their valuation. That could be why NBIS is struggling currently a little bit. But yeah, so again, $5,000 investment, $1,300 profit. Would love to get you the same results and be a part of your success. So I would love to see you there at Market Open. Get a special ability to see our entries, see our exits every day, as we did this morning. And I'd like to see you there tomorrow morning or Monday morning. So again, have a look below. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope you have a great day, and hopefully it's helpful for you. You got some great analysis into your portfolio on the top stocks you were looking to analyze. We covered a ton, and appreciate you all. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.